The mishkan, as it was constructed in the desert, was a temporary structure, and it was a portable one. And we will read later that the Nisim, the princes of Israel, the heads of the tribes, donated wagons that would be able to transport the mishkan, and except for the Aron, which was always carried by the Bnei Kohath on their shoulders, but the oxen pulled the wagons, and it went with the Jewish people from place to place. Now, in the entire history of the desert, even though in Parshas Maseh there are many places that are listed, according to the Meforshim, according to Jewish tradition and the Talmud, there were only 38 years they were in one place. In other words, 38 out of the 40 years was spent stationary. So therefore the Mishkan stood there erect as, so to speak, a permanent building. When the Jewish people entered Eretz Yisrael in the time of Yoshua, so we have in the Tanakh, in Sefer Yoshua, that the Aron went through the Yarden, and it split the Yarden, so that the Jewish people were able to cross on dry land. And the rest of the Mishkan also went across. And so then what happened to the Mishkan? For instance, where was it during the siege of Yericho and later of Ai? So the Tanakh doesn't describe it for us, but the Meforshim say that it was erected in the Jewish camp, and then it was taken down as the Jews progressed throughout Eretz Yisrael, as they conquered the country. And one of the main centers of Jewish life in the time of Yoshua and the Shoftim was in Shiloh. And there were two places. One was in the Gilgal, and one was in Shiloh. And the Mishkan was established in Shiloh. Now, the Mishkan stayed in Shiloh over 350 years. So therefore, in Shiloh, they constructed it after a period of time as a permanent building. How did they do that? They built a foundation and walls of stone that and the curtains and the artifacts were placed on that foundation, but that the Mishkan now was no longer portable, the Mishkan itself. So it became a permanent building. The Mishkan is now 400 years old. It was 40 years in the desert, and 360 years in Shiloh. Now, Yerushalayim was never captured. During the entire period of time that the Shoftim reigned, Yerushalayim remained a city of the Yevusi. It was a Jebusite fortress. And there's a difference of opinion in the Meforshim whether or not the Jews knew that Yerushalayim was going to be the place, so to speak, but that they just couldn't militarily or physically occupy it because it's a city defended by hills, etc., or whether they were unaware but they were aware only that the Mishkan in Shiloh was still, in spite of being there for hundreds of years, was still only temporary. Was not going to be its permanent place. And they would wait until the Nevi'im came and told them where the Mishkan should be erected. So, in the time of David, so Shmuel HaNovi lived here in the suburbs of Yerushalayim, in what today Ramat Shmuel, Ramot, that area. Right, he lived in Ramah, so there was a village there. That's why there's a tradition that his grave is there. But Shmuel did not instruct Shaul to build the Beis HaMikdash, nor during the reign of Shaul, which was short, a little over 2 years, did he make any attempt to conquer Yerushalayim or to move the Mishkan from Shiloh to bring it to Yerushalayim. When David HaMelech became the king, so for the first 7 years, his seat of government was in Hebron. And Hebron was the capital city of Yehuda, of the tribe of Yehuda. And it was there that he established himself. So there's a difference of opinion already in the Meforshim and different rayas that are brought, whether or not he already moved the Mishkan from Shiloh to Hebron, so that it should be where his capital was, where his palace was, or whether it remained in Shiloh. Eventually, however, David comes to conquer Yerushalayim. And he is successful in defeating the Yevusim and driving them out. And he builds the what he called Ir David, the city of David, which is, it ran north-south from the springs of Gihon north through the Temple Mount. And there he built his palace. And today the archaeologists show remnants of Ir David, and some say they even found remnants of his palace and of other governmental buildings that existed there. But that became the capital of Eretz Yisrael, the capital of the Jewish people. Being the capital, David wanted to bring the Mishkan to Yerushalayim, and not only not to bring the Mishkan, he wanted to build a permanent building, the Beit HaMikdash. Now the question was there a mitzvah in building the Beit HaMikdash, or would it have been sufficient just to bring the Mishkan and establish it in Yerushalayim, in Har HaMoriah, on the Temple Mount? Did he have to build a building? In any event, he intended to build the building. And the Navi told him that it was not his task. He was not the one to build it, but that his son, who would succeed him, would be the one that built it. So he moved. So what did he move to Yerushalayim? So from the Tanakh, it looks like he moved the artifacts, but not the Mishkan itself. And therefore there's a tradition that the Mishkan is buried still in Shiloh. The actual tapestries. And The Tanakh discusses moving the Oron. It doesn't discuss the other artifacts. From the Gemara, it is can easily be inferred that the menorah of Moshe was also moved, was also brought. But none of this is specific. The Oron is specific. And the Nevi'im, Gad and Natan, were the ones that laid out the Beit HaMikdash, so to speak. They showed where the altar, the Mizbeach, should be. The Mizbeach was supposed to be on top of the rock where Yitzchak was for the Akedah. It was there, Shara Shamayim. And that would be the place of the Korbanos and of service. So during the time of David, that served as a place of korbanos and service, but there was no building and there was no mishkan. So what type of mizbeach did they have? So there was a temporary one because they were waiting until they would actually build the Beit HaMikdash in order to create the permanent structure. When David passed away, so his son Shlomo became the king. And Shlomo, together with the Nevi'im, was the architect of building the first Beit HaMikdash. And we see from Tanakh that Shlomo introduced artifacts that were not in the Mishkan. He had 10 extra menorahs. The Mizbeach was, according to many, was a different size. He elaborated on the Mishkan, which in essence was a pretty simple structure, and now he wanted to build a grander structure. So they brought the cedar wood from Lebanon, and they brought the marble and other expensive materials to build the Beis HaMikdash. And now in the Beis HaMikdash there was the Mokam HaMizbeach, which the Nevi'im identified, and in the Beis HaMikdash there was the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, where the Oron was placed. But the rest of the Mishkan somehow was buried somewhere. So as I mentioned, there was a tradition, there still is, that it's buried in Shiloh. One of the ideas that exists in Shiloh yet is that they would do excavations and see what they can find. And pretty much they have found the outer walls of the courtyard that encompass the Mishkan. Some say that the Mishkan was nignaz. Now, what does the word nignaz mean? So it can mean that it was buried, but it also means that it was preserved somewhere, and that somehow Osi Lovo will be able to see parts of the Mishkan again. And that really depends on the difference of opinion regarding Bayit Shlishi, whether or not that's going to be a man-made structure, and therefore we will probably not see it again, or whether it is something that will be a heavenly structure, a miraculous structure, so therefore perhaps the original artifacts will come back. But this entire series of parshias, these 5 parshias that we have now, Trumah, Tetzaveh, Kisisa, Vayakel, Pkudei, that discuss the Mishkan, are talking about what is in reality a temporary structure, but a temporary structure that existed for centuries. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רוצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך חיברו להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.